Good morning, everyone. If we can take our seats so we can start. Always the cabinet members to sit down last. Welcome to this morning's Prosperous Overview and Scrutiny Committee of Thursday the 14th of April, the last one of this municipal year, so welcome to the Oak Room here in Staffordshire. We'll get straight on with the agenda, and just to let you know, we are just moving things around slightly, but not much, David, don't panic. The Spotlight Review, Sexual Harassment in Schools, is going to go on first. It is a report to note, or to endorse, I hate the word note. So we are going to put that on first because the presenters all need to leave. I'm aware that Simon, you need to be gone as well, so we'll get you your digital on as soon as we can. So the first item on the agenda is apologies. Jonathan.
Received apologies, Chairman, from Keith Flunder, Philippa Hayden, Saeed Hussain and Reverend Michael Metcalfe.
As you can imagine, it's Maundy Thursday today, so that's why Reverend Metcalfe isn't here. He's very busy. No Easter eggs today, David, sorry. Declarations of interest of members, got any to declare? No. Item 3 then, minutes of the meeting held on the 23rd of March 2022. Thank you. Moved by David Smith. Councillor Hutton. I'll sign those as a true record. Thank you. So we'll go straight on to our next item, which is the Spotlight Review, Sexual Harassment in Schools. Now, we have got the lovely Councillor Anne Edgeler and Kath Perry coming in online, and we've also got Helen Phillips in the room who will answer any technical questions we might have. So, Anne, do you want to just present this to us quite quickly so we can get on with it?
I will, Chairman. Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Chairman, for giving me the opportunity to present this report regarding sexual harassment in schools. This report was born out of everyone's invited concerns June 2020, when testimonies of victims of rape and sexual violence was posted online for all to see. The government's response: they commissioned a rapid review from Ofsted. The Ofsted report was published in June 2021. Findings: all schools should assume that it is happening in their school and take appropriate steps. Mostly girls, but not always. Abuse happens online. Limited impact so far of sex and relationship education. In response to the public concerns and the Ofsted report, 2 members of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee, myself and Councillor Kath Perry, along with the Reverend Michael Metcalfe, were asked to set up the Spotlight Review to engage with the issue and to see how well schools and agencies were responding. Please give me the opportunity to also mention now the excellent work that Helen Phillips, the lead officer of this report, has put in, and also Reverend Michael Metcalfe. A major consultation took place on January 14th this year with Staffordshire County Council officers, school representatives, safeguarding, family agencies, police, promoting a fuller discussion and mutual awareness, affirming the response already being carried out to engage with the issue. Everyone invited, which I mentioned earlier, was misleading and unfair. Schools could not reply or defend themselves. I must emphasise there are no schools named in this report, but we have to understand and assume that it may be happening in their school. Safeguarding policies and guidance are required to be taken into account. This report contains a substantial range of recommendations, and it gives the County Council the opportunity to be at the forefront of actions in safeguarding our children from peer-on-peer sexual abuse. May I ask the committee to thank the work group and the officers who participated, that the committee receive and note the report, noting any additional comments made at this meeting, that the committee endorse the recommendations to be presented to the Cabinet members for consideration and request to be notified of the Cabinet's response. Please be aware the monitoring of the implementations of the recommendations will be carried out by the safeguarding of an overview committee. Thank you, Chairman, for giving me a chance to opportunity to present this report. Thank you. I'll pass over to you now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Edgeler. Councillor Perry, have you got anything you wish to add?
Yes, if you don't mind, I'd just like to endorse everything that Councillor Edgeler has just said. It was very enlightening to be at that meeting that we had with all participants, and we learnt an awful lot there. And as you can see from the report, it was pulled together very amicably by Helen Phillips, and we had a real good discussion about it. The report is there in front of you with recommendations, which, as Anna said, I hope you endorse, and we can move forward with this spotlight review. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. Helen, have you got anything you wish to add at this point?
Yes, Chair, thank you very much. Just a couple of things. First of all, the Everyone's Invited website was the thing that really triggered the Ofsted report and also the work here. Whilst the schools were named originally in that Everyone's Invited website, or some schools were, that schools aren't named now, and I think the representatives we spoke to felt that the naming of the schools was a thing that was unfair rather than the website itself, simply because some of these were historic and therefore there was very little the schools could do, and also they were anonymous, understandably so, but that also meant that there was no information there that the schools could act on. But schools aren't named there now. This piece of work was instigated by the 3 scrutiny committees, which is why it's coming back to all 3, for members to look at the report really. If you're comfortable with the report, if you're comfortable that it addressed the reasons that you wanted this work done originally, and if you're happy with the recommendations, then the next process is that I will pull together any comments from each of the 3 overview and scrutiny committees, and they will be put together with the report and go to the Cabinet member for his executive response, and the executive response will then come back to yourself so that you can see exactly whether or not he accepts the recommendations. Moving forward, Mrs Edgeler has suggested, Mrs Edgeler obviously was a member on it from Health and Care Overview and Scrutiny, and they suggested that safeguarding is the appropriate scrutiny committee to oversee the monitoring of the recommendations, which is why she's mentioned that there, but obviously it's up to each of the scrutiny committees to decide how that is going to be monitored, whether that's through one or whether you would want some feedback yourselves, or whether it's a corporate review monitoring issue. So up to yourselves, really. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. Any questions or comments from members? Councillor Hutton.
Thank you, Chair. I think it's an excellent report. It makes it's not particularly nice reading. It's as a man, I do realise that sexual abuse goes on, but at such a young age, it's quite distressing, I think. And I just would say thank you very much for bringing this report to this committee so that we can read it. And I've got nothing to add. I think it's excellent. And I also agree with the recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments? Councillor Smith.
Chairman, I fully endorse the report. I think it's excellent, and I'm perfectly happy with all the recommendations. That's all fine. Can we just, perhaps just an officer could tell me, I get very confused with the fact that we've got academies and what is our influence within an academy. Could you just explain for a few moments what influence we have actually over the schools that come within the county? and how we can actually look to implement the sort of recommendations that we're making. Thank you, Chair.
Helen?
Thank you. Yes. On the 14th of January, we had, in fact, representatives from all types of schools, including academies, and we did also have, in fact, a chief executive of a multi-academy company from Paisley who attended. The Education Safeguarding Advice Service serves all schools, and so they are supporting both academies and non-academy schools. This issue is something that is extremely important, and I think testimony to that is the fact that, in spite of the fact that we were still in the grips of COVID, despite of the fact that, you know, the 14th of January we were kicking off with another rise in cases, they gave up the time to attend in person, the academies as well as the non-academy schools. So I think that shows that they are very committed to addressing these concerns, to discussing with the local authority the initiatives that they take and how they move forward. Clearly, academies work slightly separately to maintained in that they have a different governing process. However, there is when academies first came in, there was very much a feeling within the local authority that we were a Staffordshire family and that there was coordination and working together. Now, clearly, in some academies that works better than others. It depends on the working relationship. But nevertheless, in respect of this, the working relationship was excellent. The attendance and participation and feedback from academy schools was very worthwhile and well received. And Ofsted is very keen to look at this work going forward when they visit all schools, irrespective of their status. So I can only speak from this piece of work to say that it worked extremely well and they were participated and the information they gave was very valuable. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. I think that puts the whole report into context, which I found very helpful. I'd be very happy to propose approval of all the recommendations, Chairman.
Can I make a comment?
Yep.
Yeah. So I've got I'm a school governor in what is now an academy and have been for 15 years. And I'm also at work for Derbyshire County Council as a SEN teacher as such. I can assure you that everybody who works in schools take our responsibilities very, very much. It is our responsibility to make sure that our children are safe. We use CPOMs quite a lot in Derbyshire to record incidents, and you can be disciplined if you don't take action. So, not that we have to do that, because you'll find that staff that work in schools, particularly I work with SEN children, we take our responsibilities very, very much. And even the slightest inkling that we feel that there's something wrong, we will deal with it. And this process is in all the schools to do that. And nothing's different I work in the Utoxeter Learning Trust as a governor, and I can assure you that the policies that are in that trust are very good, and there's no difference to maintain schools. You'll find that we are all responsible, and everybody in the school is responsible for the safety of children. Thank you.
Councillor Perry, did you want to come back in?
Sorry, thank you, Chairman, for allowing me to. Just to make a comment that actually this is a subject that actually, it doesn't matter what school it is, it's a subject that's close to everybody's heart. So I don't think that whether you're an academy or a Staffordshire school per se, it should make any difference to the review of safeguarding when it comes to children within all schools. I just wanted to make that point. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Perry. I think this report is a great report, Helen. I think it's informative, and it also takes away the emphasis that we have to change women's behaviour. I get really, I'm no feminist by any stretch of the imagination, gents, but I do think that everything we see on TV, these reports, it's all about how women need to change what they wear, how they behave, where they walk, who they're with. And I think this report takes that emphasis away of putting all the priorities onto females. So I welcome this report, and I'll stand up for any female or any of you gents as well. Don't panic. So we have done the report. There's 7 recommendations in there, which I think we've been moved and seconded. And then there's 3 that Jonathan has kindly put together out of doing everything. Obviously, the first one that the report was received, and we endorse the recommendations that the recommendations contained in the report are endorsed. Any comments that have been made today, Helen, and you'll have the recording as well. And that the Spotlight Review Working Group can be thanked for their valuable work in helping to address the various issues identified surrounding sexual harassment in schools, and that the finalised report be forwarded to the Cabinet members for education and send, and children and young people for their attention and any necessary action taken. Are we all happy with those? Okay, that's moved and carried. Thank you. Thank you, Anne and Kath, for coming in online. Lovely to see you both. You're welcome to leave now.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Enjoy the rest of your meeting. Happy Easter, everybody.
Yeah,
Happy Easter, everybody. Thank you.
Yeah, bye. Thank you.
So we'll move straight on to what should have been item 4, which is digital connectivity in Staffordshire, and I'll hand straight over to Councillor Simon Tagg, Cabinet Member.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everybody. First, I'll introduce the team that I'm well teamed up around me. You've probably seen. On my right there is Tony Baines, who's the Head of Skills and Employment. Next to him is Idris Roberts, who is the Head of Connectivity team for us. And then we've got 2 of our connectivity team, a couple of them working on the Superfast rollout, and will also be working on the new strategy. And that is Iona and Laura, got the names right there. And also, needs no introduction, next to me is our Director. What's your name? Darryl Ayres. I'm really pleased to introduce the Council's draft digital strategy today, which sets out the next phase of our journey to ensure that Staffordshire becomes that fully connected county digitally that we want. We have an ambition to accelerate delivery of gigabit capability technology, maximising the opportunities and benefits for businesses and residents to enable the growth of our digital economy. Now, the previous phase, which I've already just mentioned, the Superfast Staffordshire rollout, made a real difference across the county in ensuring that a majority of premises in Staffordshire had access to Superfast broadband. That's 30 MPSs or above. And the gain share mechanism which the Council secured through that programme will fund the aspirations for the new strategy which we're discussing today. That strategy focuses on a new national ambition of ensuring universal gigabit, that's 1,000 MPSs, connectivity to premises by 2030, with a government target for the UK of 85% being commercially deliverable by 2025. Our approach to achieve this across Staffordshire is based on the County Council enabling successful delivery across our county through 3 key strands. That's the digital infrastructure, digital connectivity and demand stimulation. This work will be led through our digital creative hub and will be based on a different approach to the rollout of the Superfast broadband, which this will be about enabling the market to deliver for Staffordshire. We're aware of, as all of us are, about the increasing reliance on digital. It's estimated in the next few years, on average, households and businesses will have over 200 devices connected, and the demand for services will be 1 million devices per kilometre of urban area. The successful rollout of Superfast broadband to connect non-commercially viable premises is coming to an end, and there are still approximately 21,000 premises in the county with less than those 30 MPS access. Now, the original programme and the additional council voucher scheme has supported 93 communities, Chair, connecting over 3,500 households and businesses in that hard-to-reach area. The investment by the council into the Superfast programme, in return, gave us a gain share, which I talked about earlier, and this is forecast to be approximately £4 million of which 1 million has already been allocated to further support for businesses and residents to gain access again in that hard-to-reach area. In preparing the new strategy, an open market review has been carried out. We estimate commercial rollout by commercial contractors by 2025 to 82% of properties and businesses in Staffordshire. That leaves 70,000 premises in the county that will be left without that access at these new higher speeds and will need intervention. So of those, which we're calling very hard to reach category, 4,500 premises in Staffordshire will remain in that category. So we really need to focus our work upon those while the market, the private contractors deliver to the majority. Now, Project Gigaband is a 5 billion government initiative with 1.9 billion allocated to the first phase to enable that delivery of that commercially led part of the rollout. Staffordshire has been initially allocated 70 million and 123 million to deliver gigabit capable services into those intervention areas, those hard to reach areas we talked about. And a tender process expected in the summer with delivery expected by 2027. We don't expect the first phase of Project Gigabit to be in a position to deliver initially to those properties we talked about. And work has been done with the mobile network operators to deliver, in the rural area particularly, investment in shared rural networks. There's a 1 billion government funding for that to support those areas. And we're also looking to obviously roll out further the 4G and then also upgrade to 5G mobile services for those areas which can't connect to the superfast or the gigabit when it's rolled out. And as well as working on delivering that physical connectivity in partnership with those businesses that are doing that for us, we've also got obviously our signposting to the new services. We'll have a new gigabit website, barrier busting initiatives, red carpet approach for businesses, which will support that adoption of those new digital services, e.g. using them for independent living support, access to improve remote learning, road sensors for reducing pollution, infrastructure for autonomous vehicles, driverless cars, enhanced visitor experience, smart living, agro-tech, the list goes on, monitoring ecosystems, protecting diversity and enhancing logistics, all can be using the 5G services which have been rolled out in tandem with the gigabit as well. Using that gains share funding, we're in an excellent position to take advantage of the opportunities presented by this technology that's coming along. And as detailed in the report, tremendous progress has been made to date, and we're setting out a strategic direction in the papers to support this going forward for a 5-year programme until 2027, paid for out of that forecasted gain share. So I'm not coming to the council asking for any money. What I'm saying is the money there, and we need to use it to get the best benefits for the people of Staffordshire. And that is enabling and red carpet approach for businesses and contractors to come in and provide that gigabit to the vast majority, and then standing there ready to step in with voucher schemes and other possibilities of 5G for those areas that can't connect. And we're talking about rural areas and hard to reach areas. So a really good strategy. That's just a brief introduction, Chair, but willing to take any questions in the team. Particularly, it just knows more detail than I do of how the rollout will take place. I'm sure he's willing to answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tagg. Councillor Hutton.
Thank you, Chair. We've got superfast broadband to a box down the road, and then we've got copper, ordinary copper wire to the houses. And if we ask, we only have one supplier, which is BT. And if we ask BT, they say, well, you have to pay for the last bit. It's not free. So how do we pressurise the network provider to actually wire houses up? It's ludicrous. And it's quite expensive to pay for the last bit as well.
Question. I'll pass over to the team in a minute, but I think, you know, I know where you're in a rural area, don't you? You're in those hard to reach areas in rural Newcastle. So that's the problem which we've got with these number of properties. And I think what it is using some of that gain share we've got out of the rollout of the bigger programme to enable us to focus on and enabling that the contractor, whoever it is, to do that, or seeking alternatives to get a better connection for you and the many thousands of people that have got this problem. But Idris, do you want to add?
Sure. Thanks for the question. Simon's got that absolutely right. What we're seeing is that BT's investing to get fibre to 25 million houses over the next 5 years. We're working with DCMS in order to identify those properties that BT or other providers won't reach by that time, and that's where that £123 million will go to get that fibre into there. I've also been talking to the planning teams about what we should be doing in Staffordshire is not allowing new developments to be built without that fibre being put in. Now, what BT and the other providers are saying to me is if they're involved in that planning early enough, they'll put fibre connectivity into new developments for free as long as there's 10 or more. So actually, some of the influence, if you like, is in our own hands in terms of that. In terms of existing properties, as I say, that will come through that process that we're doing with DCMS. Okay.
Councillor Smith.
Yeah. Oh, my internet is... I will mention that. Firstly, Chairman, I share the problem that Councillor Hutton has. I live some half-mile away from the magic box that gives us the... the magic box which gives me... or would potentially give me fibre. I have to say that the copper wire operates slightly faster than my brain, and so the speed of the system is not a great hassle to me. But my next-door neighbour, who runs his business from home, it's a major problem to him. We have 9 houses that are probably the best part of half a mile away from the nearest fibre box. And when I hear that where there are 10 houses or more in a development, that BT are prepared to put that in free of charge. I don't know what their position is as far as existing properties are concerned, and sadly there are only 9 properties in the lane, so we wouldn't qualify for the 10. I tend to think that we don't always realise what the internet and the speed of the internet does for us. We take it for granted. When I think in my lifetime, the changes that have come about from posting a letter through to the sort of things that happen now, I think that it's absolutely amazing and really quite staggering. And I think the progress that we've made has been absolutely tremendous. I think that the point I was going to make about the little buzz I'm getting on here is that I now have new hearing aids from the National Health Service, and without my mobile phone and the internet and the amazing things that it does, where I can come into this meeting and click on to the system where I can hear very, very clearly all speech and all things that are going on, I think that the tremendous progress that's been made is absolutely amazing, and I very much support and commend the report.
Councillor Hudson.
Yeah, as a borough councillor, I represent a very rural area, and there's been a massive uptake in getting the superfast broadband through, particularly at Marchington, Draycote, so I'll very much welcome that. In Uttoxeter, we've got most of our footpaths up at the moment, and poor old David Williams-Egg gets the blame for that. But I'm hoping that, the gain we'll get from the pain will be, brilliant in time to come. So I very much welcome this, and I welcome the report, and I look forward to the future when we get to superfast broadband speeds, not only in our urban area of Uttoxeter, but in our rural area. Thank you.
Simon?
Yeah, no, I welcome those comments, and I think you're quite right. I mean, it's the same up in Newcastle. All the roads seem to be dug up at the moment. That's a sign of this infrastructure going in already, isn't it? And I think David's quite right, and as is Graham as well. The concentration must be on those hard-to-reach areas. And it's always in the urban area where it's further away from the obviously the box, as we call it, isn't it? And I think just if you can give any more sort of background to that, how we actually it's okay connecting up new homes, isn't it? We can change the planning rules to do that and ensure it's built in and it's so it doesn't have to be retrofitted later. But some of the schemes and vouchers and alternatives which we can have for people like David and Graham if they are just that bit far away from getting that, because everybody needs that connection, don't they? Whether it's for video, you know, the kids can be on Netflix upstairs and the guy's running a business and doing video conferencing downstairs. We need that capacity, don't we, even in the rural areas, and we've got plans for that. And
yeah, one of the team, Laura, sitting over in the corner there, has been a great interface to a lot of the communities. I think Simon mentioned that the £1 million as part of the gain share has already been invested in trying to work with communities and get signatures in order then to deliver these services to the smaller rural communities. The way that worked is about 10 years ago when we started the Superfast programme, that was to deliver into rural areas. There remained a number of communities that it still wasn't commercially viable to get there. So DCMS started a voucher scheme and we put in £1 million worth of our own money into those voucher schemes. That's helped about 90 communities. Now what happened then is that the vouchers went to each individual household and then they committed that money towards the scheme. That scheme then went through DCMS, through Scrutiny there, and then that allowed those communities to get access. Now, the numbers are great, because when you have a look at the Superfast programme, that's over 84,000 properties that wouldn't have had it had we not started this programme, that have either directly or indirectly been impacted. With the voucher schemes, we're heading towards 5,000 households and businesses that have been connected through that kind of voucher scheme. Going forward, the DCMS, with, as Councillor Tagg talked about, the 70 to 123 million pounds, those are the intervention areas where currently don't have that kind of fibre connectivity. Those are the areas myself and the team will be working to get that connectivity in. Unfortunately, we still estimate, as put in the report, about 4,000 households and businesses still won't have access. So part of the money that we'll have from the gain share will go into investigating the technologies that we can deliver the broadband services to those premises. So that might be low orbit satellite. You'll know Elon Musk is coming out with that type of technology. We've got fixed wireless access as well as the traditional fibre connectivity. So that's something we'll be investigating, with the view that the aspiration that there is universal connectivity by 2030, and as the quicker we can bring that to everybody, the better. But that's the plan that we're setting out.
Thank you, Idris. For those that didn't know, DCMS is Department of Culture, Media and Sport, because I had to ask that question as well. We're very good at using all these acronyms and don't know what they are. I'm pleased that we're doing some work, or a lot of work, with house builders for new homes. As all of you will know, I bang on about it enough. I've got an EV vehicle which, yes, plugs into the electricity, but also requires Wi-Fi for me to connect it on my phone. When Idris and I had this conversation earlier, 200 devices connected per household. I think I'm probably halfway there already. I've got a Google Home. My husband is disabled, so everything in our house, down to the light switches, the washing machine, the tumble dryer, the fridge freezer, is all done on a Google app with Google devices in every single room. So, sorry, but I think I'm already halfway to the 200 devices already. What else was I going to say? I agree with David. You know, I know where David lives. I've driven up his lane in the snow. And I think we need to get better at connecting. I know you say it's only 3%, but I think we need to get better at connecting those 3%. And that's going to come with the money that we're investing and the money that's coming from DCMS. I welcome the report. I think it's one we've been waiting for a while. And I know Simon's been, since he took over this, has been working really hard to try and get this for us. So I welcome this report and endorse the recommendations when we come to them. But David, did you want to come back in?
Just very, very quickly on the points that you've made. The farming community are quite critical to being able to access the internet. And I just wonder, when we start getting up into the wilds of perhaps the Staffordshire moorlands, whether we have anyone, regardless of speed, that can't actually access the internet? I mean, I know some people could do it by satellite, but I'm thinking really of a hardwired access to the internet. Do we have many individuals now that are not able to access the internet?
Yeah, there will be a number. Certainly, when we look at Staffordshire Moorlands and some of the areas down in South Staffs. So we're looking at alternative technologies to get those connectivity. The government and through Ofcom talk about a universal service obligation that suggests that anybody with 10 megabits or less has to be connected up, but what they tend to do is to give them a mobile dongle to actually do it via mobile. Sometimes that's not working, so it's still an area that we have to develop. So yes, the answer to your question, there is still farms out there not having that good connectivity in those areas.
I move the report, Chairman.
Councillor Winnington won't be happy then. Is he part of the 3%? On his farm.
And finally, I think it just touched on it, the Elon Musk, everybody when he's setting up these satellites and trains them going across the sky was thinking, what the hell is he doing here? But actually, as we've seen in the war in Ukraine, it's actually helping the Ukrainian army there to connect and keep in touch with each other. And he's actually using it as this is an advert for my internet. If we can use it in Africa where there's no connection, we can use it in areas such as the Peak District here. And I think, technology has moved along. You don't have to have a connected wire anymore, and I think that's the way forward. And this strategy, accepts that and moves forward, and we'll use that gain share as intelligently as we can to ensure we get as many people connected as possible. Thank you, Chair. And of course, I'm really pleased to bring this to scrutiny before it goes to Cabinet to get your views, and hopefully come to Cabinet in the summer where we can get the strategy on the book, so to speak, and carry on the good work.
Thank you, Simon. The only other thing I was going to say is obviously we're all aware of security. And how secure all our devices are going to be. I do worry about that, and I think the rest of the committee probably share that. So that's something we probably need to be looking at, how good is our security when we're looking at different devices. So we've had the report moved. Could we have a seconder? Councillor Hudson, thank you. And the recommendations are, Simon Tagg has put in here note the updates. Can we get rid of the word note, please? And progress to date in delivering the digital infrastructure strategic framework, consider and comment on the future priorities for the programme and any options for further investment, and consider and comment on the proposal for the resourcing and delivery of the framework. I think we've all done that. Thank you for your comments, and Idris and team, I hope you've got those ready to go. And I would actually go as far as to say I'd like this to come back probably in 12 months. When we've got something else to report. You've just said it's not going to Cabinet probably till the summer. So maybe this time next year we could have it back, if that's okay.
It's fine, yes. It's coming to the June Cabinet, so early summer. And then obviously I think a report back to the scrutiny at a regular interval would be a wise thing, and willing to come and give updates as we, hopefully there'll be very, very good encouraging updates as we roll this out, and the team are really focused on that, and we've got a really good team working on this now.
Yeah. This is a good news story that we need to shout about. Let's get it out there and tell everybody what we're doing. We get criticised enough, so let's get it out there that this is a good news story, and we've worked really hard to get to where we are. So thank you very much, Simon Tagg and team, and we'll move on. Darryl. It's all right, Darryl will speak in a minute. So then, we'll move on to the Highways Transformation Update. Councillor Williams, Cabinet Member for Highways, who's also got a team.
I have got a team. You haven't got to move, you're okay. Don't blame me. No, but no, I think we're comfy here. Nice and distanced. You better go around there, hadn't you? I can see the screen now. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to share out the work we've been doing here with the Highways Transformation Programme. You recall James and I attended in January to brief you on the transition programme from a high level. Today we're focusing on the first aspect of the programme, our future highways delivery model. So at the moment we're in the middle of a process assessing a small number of delivery models to understand their appropriateness for Staffordshire. There are several out there, and what we're looking to do is look at the best possible model that we can utilise that is bespoke for Staffordshire itself. It's really important to me that Scrutiny therefore has a chance to feed into this work at this early stage. We'd like your thoughts on the strengths and weaknesses around each model, which you will see in the presentation. And as we develop the analysis further and the preferred approach emerges, I'd like to then return to Scrutiny probably in June to get your input again before going to Cabinet in July for the formal decision. Although the focus of this presentation is going to be on the future delivery model, we will also be giving you a quick update on the progress we're making more broadly in the transformation of our highway service. And things have already started to change, and those will be demonstrated in that. And again, any feedback you've got on the programme is more widely is welcome today. I'm hoping we can get your feedback on a number of areas as well today. One, our focus on rebalancing the service to one that's more focused on customer needs, including the extra investment that this is going to require. Testing our summary of the members' operational priorities. Your input into the pros and cons of each future delivery model option, and any feedback on the overall transformation programme. These are all going to be really important for you to feed into and give us some information on, so that we can ensure that our way going forward addresses those issues. I'm now going to hand over to Darryl, who's going to go through the slides with James while I nip out back. Thanks, Chairman.
I know you've all been waiting for me to speak, haven't you? Good morning, everyone. I hope you're all well. So I'm just going to quickly do a reminder of the transformation programme we have around highways. Actually, I know you saw in January, but I think it's just helpful as a quick reminder. And then James is going to run through the detail of the slides, which hopefully you've had a chance to see in advance, particularly focusing on those that look at the future highways delivery models, because that's the really important part of the conversation today. Just as a quick reminder, last summer, Cabinet agreed a vision and a new vision and ambition for Staffordshire Highways, which is in our strategic plan. So you'd have seen the strategic plan that was signed off by Council. It's got a plan on the page that includes highways as a top priority. As I would simply describe it, we want to improve the customer experience of engaging with our highways significantly whilst we improve the quality of our roads. And it's in that order deliberately, because we know there will never be enough money to fix every single defect on every road in Staffordshire. That's just not going to be the case. But we can, and there is no excuse for, we can improve the customer experience of engaging with us, even if we can't fix everything. And just as a reminder, nationally, local roads, so that's roads not run by the National Highway Service, would need an investment. There's a backlog worth around £11 billion nationally on our local roads, just to get them all repaired. And then you would need more money nationally to keep them at that high level. And we're no different in Staffordshire. We have a backlog of repairs as well. So anyway, our ambition around our highways transformation programme has been kind of broken into three areas. So hopefully you'll remember this, but just as a quick reminder, the three key aspects we're focusing on is the future highways delivery model. So in 2024, we reached the year 10 point of the current contract, and we will have to make a decision about what we do then, whether we extend in full, whether we extend parts of it, whether we do something completely new. And James will be talking through some of those options today with you. The second element of our programme of transformation is changing things now, ready for the future. So over the last 2 years in particular, we've made some fundamental changes to the way we run highways in Staffordshire to both improve the customer experience, but more importantly, is to take back control and oversight for Staffordshire County Council from the current arrangements. And we'll give you a brief overview of some of that today as well. And then the third element is around the highways investment strategy. So this is about developing a business case for investing in our highways to fix more roads, which is in our strategic plan. As you'll know from previous briefings, but just as a reminder, in 2020-2021 financial year, the Department for Transport reduced local authority highways budgets by around 25% compared to previous year's funding. That reduction has now been baked in to the next 3 years' funding allocations for local authorities around the country. What does that mean for Staffordshire? We've got around £9 million less a year to spend on our roads as a result of that. Fortunately, Cabinet and full Council signed off the MTFS, which included an investment of £15.5 million capital this financial year into our highways, which obviously goes a long way to covering that funding gap, as well as an additional £1 million revenue that helps transform our services. And again, James will run very quickly through a bit more detail on that shortly. So that's just a reminder and a summary of the transformation programme we've got in place. We're driving it really hard, and we've got a governance model that is very robust. It includes regular updates here to Scrutiny. This governance model was designed or co-designed with our audit team to make sure it's based on best practice. As I said on the previous slide, we've been making a lot of changes now to improve the customer experience and ensure we have greater oversight and control of highways. And the next slide was just around a quick summary of some of those key points. And I'm loving seeing James struggle with the clicker over here. It's fantastic. Just as a reminder again, in the last 18 months, we have transferred around 60, 70 staff back to Staffordshire County Council from Amy, covering key areas of work such as network management, asset management and safety inspectors. This was a really important aspect of our transformation programme in terms of that greater control, greater oversight for Staffordshire County Council. We needed those services back working for us to give us that oversight of what's happening on our highways. It's a fundamental part of building a stronger, intelligent client function, and you'll hear that terminology used a few times, I'm sure, as James runs through the presentation. But as well as bringing back control, we've also trialled new ways of working. You may recall back in 2020-21, the council invested just under 2 million in highways, a proportion of which was used to tackle drainage issues. What's new about that? Well, we did it in a very different way. What we did is we used Staffordshire County Council's community highways teams to identify those hard-to-fix hotspots around the county, working with you as local members to understand where they are. We ended up with a programme of 600. We were obviously never going to get round to all of those, but around 200 odd of those were visited, with 150 odd resolved. And remember, they were difficult to fix hotspots, so a really positive piece of work. But more recently, this last financial year, we moved some funding around from within the department and underspend in one area to put in place an additional gully crew for 5 months. This is not to fix difficult hotspots. This is about getting out and just emptying gullies and drainage. And the target for that was, again, to run it completely differently. The community highways team employed by Staffordshire County Council would identify where they want that crew to go on a week-by-week basis based on their local knowledge at the patch, talking to you as local members as well, to get them out and visit gullies that hadn't been visited for a while, or they just knew our customers are sick and tired of this one here flooding, let's get a crew out and deal with it. A very different approach. They visited sites, whereas traditionally Amy visit an individual gully and visit that. It was all here about being flexible. Visit a site. So we've got streets they visited where there might be 50 or 60 gullies. It's about getting to the street and not leaving until the job is done. It's not about hitting targets in terms of number of drains visited in a day. It's about fixing those that you've gone to. It's been a real success, that 5-month trial. We've seen on contract the amount of gullies left running on the first visit rise from 89%, which is where it was pre this trial, to 94%, which is where it is now. So a really, really positive piece of work there. So as you can see, we've been moving significantly over the last few months on this highways transformation programme, but we really want to talk through today with you the future of highways and the different models we're looking at and get your feedback and input into that, as David said, before we come back again with a more detailed overview of the preferred model. So I'm going to hand over to James, Chair, if that's okay, to talk through the rest of the slide pack.
No, it's fine. It's just making it work. It either does. It's very slow, and then there you go. I think it's just slow, isn't it? So it does. Takes a while, and then a bit like me. It is. And then you press it twice, and it goes 2 slides. Anyway, okay. So I'll crack on because I am conscious of how much time we've got. To support the transformation programme that Councillor Williams and Darrell have spoken about, we're employing the external support of an organisation called Future Highways Research Group. That's a partnership between Proving Services, which is practitioners from Cranfield University School of Management, and ADEPT, which is the Association of Directors for Economy, Environment, Planning and Transport. And together they've developed a best practice methodology for evaluating current and proposed highway service delivery models, which has been endorsed by CIPFA, the Chartered Institute of Public Finance and Accountancy, and also accredited to gold standard by APMG, the Association of Project Managers Group. Last summer, FHRG conducted an evaluation of the current Staffordshire Highways model to establish our sort of benchmark position. It's a few headlines. We'll just kind of read off this script. A main thing, actually, we've got to be that we boast what is called a best-in-class approach to supporting inward investment and economic growth through the highway service, with a red carpet offer that supports developers from end to end and pre-planning through to technical designs and construction. And it's the envy of many other local authorities across the country who are trying to emulate that. Council's highway service also compares very well, and indeed amongst the top 10% for operational efficiency and effectiveness with the money that's available. But the big thing is here that Staffordshire is also one of the lowest spending local authorities when it comes to highway maintenance services, whether that's measured as pound per head of the population or pound per length of road. And that often causes a lot of trade-offs in the way things are done. Sometimes, obviously, the obvious one has been repairing isolated defects that have got statutory timescales and having to then leave other things that, it would have made more sense to do at the same time. And other savings and efficiencies that have been made at the expense of, as Darrell's outlined, around the effective community engagement and customer service offer, which undermines really some of those other successes as well. So that's where a lot of the focus is. Got individual clicks. So in line with that new vision for Staffordshire Highways, FHRG have helped us to summarise what members have told us they now want the service to start to move towards. I won't read these out, but it'd be helpful if we can get committee's feedback on towards the end whether these are the right things. And similarly, this is painful. Doesn't do this on the screen, it's only with this clicker. Aligned to those, we've also got aligned to those local member priorities, we've also got FHRG to help us translate the new vision and ambition into set of strategic goals, which is common language used across the highway sector, which again I won't read through to you, but covers things like achieving net zero, supporting economic growth, meeting the needs of citizens and providing value for money. And achieving all of that, absolutely. Do you want me to go through them? Yes, well, I think that's what we should. Okay. See if we can get back. There we go. So, that one, yeah. I'm going to have to go back line at a time.
While James is pressing the button, shall I just quickly start describing them and then he can jump in so we don't lose time. So the consultants have been liaising with David and Mark DeVille, as well as taking feedback from Cabinet, and we'll be taking feedback here around what are the issues you want resolved. And it's important to remember the consultants' work have done this same process with 13 different local authorities over the last few years, so they've got really good national experience. And the common issues that members experience, very similar across the whole country, unsurprisingly, but they're summarised here, and we're trying to solve these issues through the new model. So it was one of the questions to you as a committee is, do these feel about right? So our members want a service that acts quickly and decisively when members have issues that communities can see are getting resolved. They want a service that keeps members informed with accurate, complete and timely information. They want a service that delivers things right first time, because temporary repairs that we do rely on from an economic efficiency point of view can appear as poor quality workmanship to our residents. A service that demonstrates quality workmanship with every intervention, It's about having a workforce that shows it cares, it lives in the area and it takes pride in the area. And an accessible service for the public, demonstrating care and professionalism, i.e. we know we can't fix everything, but we want a good customer experience, even if the answer is we just can't do it right now. So they were the key points.
I think you need to add there common sense as well.
Shall I carry on, or did you want to discuss that?
Please. On this point of a workforce that actually cares for the area, when you're looking at the new model, whether you continue with Amy, get somebody else in, whatever, will you have in that mix breaking the service up so that it's a Newcastle contractor in Newcastle, a Cannock contractor in Cannock? It will mean a little bit more work for the council, but then you can get probably a far better service, because people will say, oh, well, if the Cannock boys don't work out that very well, we can get the Moorlands team in and they'll get the contract. I just think there's no competition for Amy, and I think and just doing it once every 10 years isn't. I don't think works. I think you should break the contract up, have lots of different companies delivering locally, and I think you'll get a much better service because they'll have a lot to lose.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, and I don't know how practical it is, but if you had teams for specific areas, we know which team has done the repairs in a specific area, and they're responsible for that. Because what I found in my area is, depending on who comes and repairs the repairs, as to what quality you get. Some are brilliant, some are poor. But if we have a dedicated team to an area, as a local member, I know who to contact and say, hey, come on, that's not good enough. Because at the end of the day, we're the people who get the Facebook comments, who get people in the street having a personal attack at us, and it isn't us that's the problem, it's the work that's being carried out.
You'll be pleased to hear that will be picked up as part of the next few slides. But just to give you assurance, now not every single repair is done by Amy. We use a lot of local SMEs within the contract, locally based. A lot of the crews that do work for Amy, if you go out and speak to them, tend to live in the area anyway as well. So there's a lot of local people already working on it, but the points are really well made and will absolutely be picked up through this process.
So if we can just let the presentation finish and then keep your questions, because you'll find that your questions will be answered. You saw these slides on Monday, Tuesday, David? Tuesday, so you should. So you've already seen them. So if we just wait till the end and then ask your questions.
Too many buttons. So achieving everything that we've said up to that point, as FHRDG describe it, requires a rebalancing of the service. So what we're talking about is trading off some of that kind of low-cost operational delivery, which is shown there with the orange curve ramping down, reinvesting in key elements of the service, such as customer responsiveness, which is the green line ramping up, and then the net effect of the two is helping to maintain the majority of the strengths of the current service, whilst also achieving that improved vision, that new vision for being able to reinvest in improving the quality of roads, and in particular that customer responsiveness, the customer service and local engagement that members are asking for. And that really involves, well, I should have said actually on that the big things, the big takeaway there is really it involves the things that Darryl's already mentioned, which is about strengthening the council's commissioning client control capability of seeing the contract, and also investing in greater community response and capacity, or capability, should I say. So the investment strategy, Darryl's already mentioned this. Again, I mean, the basic principles are that we've got to work through whatever funding the county council's got available. It just has to. It's never going to be quite enough to be able to do everything that we want to do. So there has to be some key principles about how that money will be prioritised, and it's aligned to that vision in these key steps. Again, I won't read them through to you because I'm very conscious of the time. But what we've got for 22-23 financial year is £15.5 million. It's broken down there. You can see that a lot of that money goes directly into the asset. A significant element of it is about tackling that backlog of maintenance again that Daryl's referred to, that post-winter work stack, as we call it, where during the winter months road repairs have been really quite slow because we just don't have the right options and techniques available in the winter months, and the defect numbers are high. So we're in the road repair season now, so that's where a lot of that effort goes. But it's also about remapping that customer service system, reviewing that customer journey and making the improvements around there that is absolutely crucial to this new vision. And then there's also some works around some piloting, some new approaches, some new ways of working, particularly around that right first time, getting the communications right when there has to be sometimes holding repairs, it's the right thing to do, or whether to actually trying to get to a place of fixing places and streets. But it's not, just to be very clear, that's not an absolutely pressing a light switch today, and that is a new way of working. That is to carry out some pilots to understand what those new ways of working would look like, test the systems that would enable it, and also quantify it up so we could work out what that would cost to roll out county-wide in future and inform some future investment options for the council. On the revenue side, we've already got £1 million confirmed, which is summarised there. It's addressing some existing pressures within the service, have been particularly important, putting some extra capacity into that contract management capability, so providing greater oversight and assurance on contract performance and checking quality elements, and also supporting that right first time pilot that I mentioned. There is provisionally another £1 million as well, which is available. We're not sure about that yet, hoping that will be confirmed towards the end of the month. If that is available, then again, it reinvested into those critical pieces there, which is the community highways team, providing that capacity to support, work with local members, direct operational resources, a bit like the gully trial that was carried out last year, engaging with local councils, securing funding contributions, enabling more local community capacity. There's, again, added contract management and capability there, so the inspection function which is transferred across, adding capacity in there to be able to increase the speed of response for when customer defects are first reported to the county council. If we don't invest in that, we've literally just transferred the responsibility without really increasing the capacity. So it's about that, but adding more capability to provide more quality assurance of works that are carried out on the ground, not just the county council's own highway works, but utilities and third-party works as well. That's all quite crucial to it. And then you'll notice that adds up, obviously, to just over £1 million. So that's a bit of a cunning plan there. That's a bit of a lag effect in terms of mobilising the first £1 million in the first two bullet points. The slight underspend would enable £200,000 trial or pilot into that community response function that we've talked about. So transforming the offer now, again, Daryl's covered a lot of this actually, aligning with FHRG's recommendations, it's about rebalancing the service. These changes are about transferring overall control and responsibility for the highway service back to the county council, leaving the contractor, whoever that may be in the future, to focus on delivery. In addition to the duty transfer of the network management unit, we've got the safety inspection functions have come back. That's about identifying and prioritising works. The asset management function that manages the overall network condition, determines capital maintenance programmes, etc. That's all come back to the county council, together with the claims management and the transfer of liability for statutory service failures again. So liberating the contractor to not have to worry about those kind of commercial risks, just focus on doing what the county council asks it to do and do that in the best possible way. And a series of other improvements include the relaunch of the Highway Infrastructure Asset Management Plan, which this committee reviewed last February. So that's going through February last month before last, which is going to Cabinet in April, and some changes to cyclical gully emptying programmes, and there's also the improvements to the way that members and residents are being kept informed of progress of works. And then we get into the future delivery models options. So I'll quickly try and canter through this again. It's coming. So you're not expected to read that. All it's trying to do is give an illustration that with working with FHRG, we've assessed 17 different, or the top 17 different delivery models that are used across the UK at the moment for highway services. They're kind of listed down the column on the left-hand side. Across the top, we've got the strategic goals that we've talked about, together with the members' priorities and other aspirations, and then done an evaluation process. It evaluates the likelihood of the different models being able to achieve those requirements, the confidence of being able to do it, the attractiveness to the market, and so on. And it does give a rank score on the far right-hand side, but it's not really the rank that we're that interested in. It's more the sort of red, amber, green heat map, which tells you sort of gravitate towards which models would really help deliver this vision and ambition for Staffordshire. And the outcome of that is another graph that you can't really read, but it shows the current service there. You've got the blue column in each group shows a kind of current performance. The red is the attractiveness to the market. The green, I think, is the ability to change. And it shows us the current service there, with it obviously highlighted in today's service. The columns to, or the model to the left, is really what we're talking about, a strategic partnership, but with a strengthened commissioning client capability, which is essentially where we're moving to at the moment. We're practically moving towards that left-hand column now with the changes that we're already making. The other two options to the right is what we call a mixed economy model. Or, in fact, we've got some references on here. They're going to do it one by one again, fortunately. So we've got a mixed economy type solution with a range of different providers, obviously having to be managed separately. So that's individual procurement exercises, individual performance management, individual checks, invoice payments and the like, health and safety systems, etc. So that is quite a complicated mechanism to work in its extreme model, if you like. Then we've got the in-house service capability, which would be if we had a direct labour organisation. But sorry, the other option we were talking about is an arm's length company. So setting up what is often called a TECL organisation. I don't know what TECL acronym means, but that's the common language for setting up an arm's length company like a quasi-commercial ability to deliver your in-house highway services. So with using the FHRG evaluation process, we've established the pros and cons, or done the evaluation section, got to those three options. One, which is, say, is a strategic partnership model. The second one which we're moving towards with it, wouldn't be exactly as it is now. It's with the amendments, the strength of the control mechanism. The second one being the mixed economy, or the third one being the arm's length or TECL company. And what I've tried to do here is summarise the main pros and cons of each model. Now, some of the pros exist across all the models, some of the cons exist across all, so I've just sort of cherry-picked out what I think are the main differentiators for each of the models. So, as you'd expect, putting the controls and changes that we're already in place, that we're making now, which we're 80% of the way there, and then having some sort of contract extension with Amy would obviously be the easiest, cheapest, quickest solution to put in place. You could put the same regime and all those controls in place and have that new operating model, but then re-procure. That's obviously got some costs with it, but it's got quite a few advantages as well in terms of reinvigorating or supporting the transformation that we're talking about, and putting some energy into that. But there are also some risks around that. So there's risks around, do you really know that any other provider is going to be better than Amy would be? And actually, you could go through a process in quite a seller's type of market and actually end up with the same provider anyway, but in a weaker negotiating position. In the reactive and cyclical, or as a bit of a mixed economy type solution, again, you can read the pros and cons for yourself, really. It's very much about further emphasising or amplifying that control capability. They're the main sorts of advantages. It just gives you the complete control of the operations. It's very high visible that it's a county council function. But again, there are some trade-offs with that. And the main one, I suppose, is that the FHRG advice is typically benchmarking and looking over a long period of time that in-house services just tend to perform as well as outsourced functions. And I think you do get that supply chain piece that's missing. So with a strategic partner, as Darryl said before, a lot of the work that gets delivered on the ground is actually delivered under subcontracts with local SMEs, and you get quite a lot of supply chain competition then on a sort of regular week-by-week, monthly, year-by-year basis. Whereas with a direct labour organisation, obviously you don't get that. You've got your own workforce, and you can have that locality, but you can also lose some of that competition. and I think there's some similar themes with the arm's length company. The big issue here is the cost of change to establish an arm's length company capability. And once you're in that model, again, it's quite difficult to sort of back out of it. There's a few examples of this across the country. Nottinghamshire and North Yorkshire have got arm's length company arrangements. There's not a huge amount of information available from them. Not really quite sure why they're so secretive about it, but they are difficult to set up and difficult to benchmark against, but there seems to be some questions about it. And I suppose the big thing there is a bit like the direct labour organisation is you're on your own, you don't have a third party, you don't have the resilience that a third party can bring that reach back into another organisation. And it makes the retreat options quite difficult as well. So that's a quick summary of those sort of pros and cons. I've just got 2 more slides, so if I just, this one's just the timeline. Again, self-explanatory, you have seen this before. It is missing what Councillor Williams referred to before as a further scrutiny event, perhaps in June, before we go to Cabinet, just to test where we've got to following feedback today and all the other engagements that we're doing. The aim is to get to a Cabinet decision around July time, so that then that gives us still a 2-year window of change if we need to do procurement exercise or if we're setting up arm's length companies, that kind of thing. We've got a 2-year window to do that. And then we finish on the final slide with the questions, which everything's appeared at once, which is how I was expecting the other slides to work, but unfortunately didn't. I think of those, the questions hopefully self-explanatory. Question 4 is a particularly interesting one. This is something we're thinking about ourselves a lot, trying to say that we've got down to those 4 options, but again, really what we're after is the best solution for Staffordshire, and that might be a bit bespoke, so it might not actually be any one of those 4 models in isolation, but a bit of a hybrid. So just to give an example, and this is just an example, one thing we've thought about is that the wider highway service, Highways and Built County function, actually already operates a bit of a mixed economy. So we've got street lighting PFI with E.ON, we've got specialist traffic signal systems done with an organisation called Danique. We've got things like Road Safety Partnership, where we work with Staffordshire Police and multiple providers to do various things. We deliver school crossing patrols internally, likewise flood risk management capability. So we've got a bit of a mixed economy across the whole service, but then we're into the highway operations, which is currently done as Infrastructure Plus. So we could actually take that sort of macro level and put that into a sort of micro level version there, where we manage each function by function on its own value. So very clear about, with the strengthened county council client control, be very clear about the specific functions, what we look for that, what the service level is, how much funding we've got for it, what the performance management regime is around that, and really holds the providers to account on that. And again, you could do that with one principal provider, but then review it on a very regular basis with the flexibility to take things away from them and perhaps deliver any of the other different solutions. So that would be, I think that's really where a lot of the sector seems to be moving towards that kind of model. And it would be something that actually we're already probably 80% of the way in terms of having our own capability with all those cheaper transfers that we've made and all that control back. We're 80% of the way there to be able to manage in that operation, in that sort of operating model. And then you have options about, so once you've done that, do you take the sort of quicker, easier, less risk approach to test it with Amy for a period of time, or do you just go big bang and go out to re-procurement? So all those sort of options. And I'll try and be quiet there because I'm conscious of hands and questions.
Thank you, James, Darrell and David, for that very comprehensive report, and I hope everybody managed to work their way through it. Councillor Hudson. Hutton.
Thank you. I'm going to give you a couple of positives. First of all, the gully flushing thing is going down very well. Really, really good. And also, Longshore Avenue in my patch in Bradwell, it's going to be closed for quite a long time because of the work that's being done. And I went to see Amy there, and what they're doing is talking to every resident and offering to, because the residents are putting up with a lot, offering to make sure that all their drives are done. Now, it's not very far to the houses, that's a section of prefabs actually, but the very fact that they're reaching out and offering residents something, I think is a really, really positive thing. And I've had no complaints, which I rate as You've got the highest award there from residents. Nobody's contacted me whatsoever. So I think that's great. In terms of, I've read it through the whole lot, and what I see is the very positive thing is that Staffordshire have control, and also perhaps are the people who sign off work. And I think that's absolutely crucial. In terms of the strategy, I would like to see added in something about traffic management. So in certain areas, you'll get rat runs. Okay, we have to live with rat runs, but it can get to a point where basically all that the councillor gets is, you know, a series of complaints over years about one particular stretch of things like that. And I think we should have built in some kind of somebody who will come out and say, could be part of the Safer Roads Partnership, whatever, could come out and say, okay, these are the options that we can do. And at the moment, I don't see that happening. So I would really like, in my area, it's David Greatbatch, who I've got great respect for, funnily enough, because he's quite good. His knowledge is really excellent. He's on holiday at the moment, but I would, you know, but it could be something to do with safer, so we can get the police involved and all that sort of thing. But I think that should be in that strategy as a clearly defined thing. It's because that's what irritates residents, and we're changing because residents want something better. So I think that would be a really useful thing in it. But other than that, I would like to see competition in the fixing, in the, you know, fixing potholes or whatever it is. It doesn't bother me which way you do it. You can put it into an AMI contract and make sure that they, like the BBC, are forced to hand out contracts to small producers. We can force AMI to hand out contracts to and monitor it and come back to us with a you know, as part of their contract. Well, these guys are good, these guys are rubbish, we're not going to use them again. It doesn't have to be the council letting 50 contracts. I don't mind, but I would like to see some competition there. And other than that, Chair, that's me. I think it's, thank you very much for the report. It's really, really good reading. And it was nice to have the slides finally.
Councillor Smith.
I think we could spend a long time discussing this, and perhaps it wouldn't be overproductive. My feeling as a member at the pointed end of dealing with problems is what percentage of the cost of filling a hole is taken up in admin. And so if when you're looking at the process of the way we're going to deal with the problems in the future, I think all the options that we're looking at, I think we need to be looking at how do we minimise the admin cost and put as much of the spend into actually filling the holes and maintaining our highways and drainage and all the things that go with it. I think that one of the things we need to very much bear in mind is that we get what we pay for. And I think, and I'm sure you probably would disagree with me, that we pay AMI to buy at the lowest possible cost, and in many cases don't get the best quality of delivery on what we're looking at. I have my phone going this morning, or messages coming to me this morning, about a road which 6 months ago had significant work done on the potholes. They have all reopened, and they're now back as bad as they were before. Now, if you don't look at repairing a road for a reasonable time forecast, whether that's 5 years or 10 years or whatever it might be, if we're not actually looking to repair our roads with a long-term expectancy, we're going to continue to be doing the same thing over and over and over again. And that's extremely expensive. I mean, my feeling has always been that when something hits your desk, you deal with it immediately, otherwise it keeps coming back and hitting you. And I think we should bear that in mind. Also, I think that we need to look at giving some sort of stability to our highways team. I do feel that the highways team work very, very hard under difficult circumstances. And I admire very, very much the support that they give to me as the local member on the work that they are doing. And I hope that in the system that we adopt, whatever that may be, we recognise the role of the local teams, because they're great. I think also, you mentioned the point about rat running. Rat running is part of the problem of why our roads are not remaining up to standard. And I really do feel that we're getting to the stage where we need to take an imaginative approach for how we're going to bring under control rat running. My understanding as far as highways are concerned, that the first thing that you do in planning any new development or whatever you're going to look at in that respect, you get vehicles onto a major road as soon as you possibly can. And rat running is how do you avoid getting onto a major road because you think you've got a better and shorter way of getting out. So I think that we need to look at the movement of traffic across the whole of the county. I suffer particularly because I'm the fountainhead of traffic coming from all the new developments in the southwest of the county, sorry, southeast of the county, all come pouring through my division to get into the major networks to get into Birmingham. So I think that we need to take, beyond where we're looking at today, a more imaginative approach of how we deal with that. And I would also just look at, which has not been something we've raised today, but where we talk about working with parish councils. I think that parish councils do have a role to play in what we're doing, but they are there to support the local member. And I think that we should not get away from that. I have a system in my area. I don't know whether it's the same anywhere else. It's only what I look at. But TROs are extremely expensive. And when we look at our DHP money, you can only look at doing one, and there's precious little left to do anything else. So what I've done is to prioritise the various areas of my division, and I'm looking at all-encompassing traffic regulation orders that don't just deal with one single issue, but they deal with the multiple of issues across the whole of that area within my division. Now, in doing that, I've got a reasonable argument to go to the parish council and say, this is my strategy for what I want to do in this area. This is how I want to deal with the complaints which are coming forward from the community. This can be done. I will fund the TRO and I'll contribute towards the cost of what needs to be done, but will you come forward and contribute to it as well? Now, in some cases, the parish councils say, why are we subsidising the county council? You're the highways authority, it's your problem, not ours. In some other cases, they are taking a more reasonable view, and I think there's a way forward. So, Chairman, I support very much what's been said to us today. I trust the Cabinet and the officers supporting the Cabinet to deliver on the best service that we can do to deliver filling holes. But I hope that they will also look at this much wider issue, and that they also look at, we are, as members, the champion of the local community, and don't mess us about. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Hudson.
Yeah, there's a couple of things I think we need to look at is our network management unit and how they operate. I've got a fantastic divisional highways team in Uttoxeter, but we often feel let down by the way in which our network is managed. They don't seem to liaise with people like Uttoxeter Racecourse. We've had some major race events in Uttoxeter, and we've had the whole of Stafford Road dug up that's caused problems. twice now. It happened last year, and they don't seem to have learned from last year's experience. So we need to look at, I mean, they're very good at notifying me when the road's going to be dug up by contractors and that, but we don't seem to look at the bigger picture. So at the moment I've got all of Stafford Road dug up. The rural part of Stafford Road has been dug up this morning at Loxley Lane, Bennett's Lane. We've got Highway Road dug up. We've got the road that links the two dug up. And, you know, it doesn't look good. So we need to look at, and I know that there's, I've had a letter today from Aldi wanting to know why there's a delay in their roadworks being put in so they can open their new store. So I'm hoping that we don't allow them to dig that up just yet, because then I've got another road dug up. So we need to, I think we need to look at how our network management unit operate. The other thing is that I don't know what we can do, but what you find is when you get contractors come and do work, no, they're not multi-skilled. So you've got somebody comes and dig the road up, somebody will come and repair the road, then it's left for days and days, then somebody will come and fill it in, and then somebody comes and resurfaces it. So we've then got a road closed for a long time. So Stafford Road, I'm sorry to keep going on about it, but we've got that closed now till the 29th of April, and it's been closed for 2 weeks already. And what you get is members of the public come along, see nothing happening for days, you know, and they're not happy. So I don't know how we can deal with that. So, you know, it's like multi-skilled teams to come in and deal with things. But other than that, as I say, the divisional highways teams are brilliant. They do what they can with what little money we've got. You know, £7,000 doesn't go a long way, particularly when, you know, and I'm lucky I've just got Uttoxeter Urban. My partner, you know, Philip Atkins has got Uttoxeter Rural, which is, you know, massive area there. But I welcome the report. I welcome future what we're going to do with our highways, and it's very important. And I hope that you use people like me in my area. I was a police officer for 30 years in that area. I know the roads, I know the people, and I'm very happy to impart my knowledge, you know, to the highways teams, you know, and help and keep the public happy, because with all the massive things that we do in Uttoxeter, in Staffordshire, we do some fantastic things as the Staffordshire County Council. The one thing that people keep harping on about is our roads. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else wish to speak? I'll get on with my long list then. I like to speak, give you all the chance to speak before me. I welcome this report. I think a lot of hard work has gone into it. I think there's a lot of information for us as members to take in, and I hope you've all managed to get through it, as there is a lot of information. Just going on the questions for the committee, and just giving my views on that. The first one, the customer is the people out of here, the people that elect us, and I think at the moment the community response we've got to our roads and our highways is a very negative one from the members of the public, and I think we can all agree on that. So anything that raises expectations and perception from the customer point of view can only be a good thing. I think we as members need to be better supported to get the jobs done, and we need to remember that highways is more than just potholes. There's a whole work stream and a whole network of things that we need to do. The other thing is we need to try and do things differently. If the current system isn't working, then we need to fix it. If we feel that it is working, the old adage, if it ain't broke, that let's not fix it. But I do believe there is some issues that we really need to do. The reported system is, you know, people moan about it being too clunky. I've had conversations with James about how much you have to go through before you actually get to the bit you need to report. So, you know, that I know, although that doesn't come under this bit, it's something we need to be looking at. And I'm really pleased that we are looking at how other people are doing it, Nottinghamshire you mentioned, and that we can then have something, if we can get the information, to benchmark ourselves against. I'd like to know if I'm allowed to ask, because I don't know how sensitive it is, which model you prefer, because I think you may have a preferred model. I'm not sure, so maybe you can come to that at the end. And then just some things I was thinking, kind of outside the box, really, having a copy of our infrastructure plan that's massive. how much work do we actually do with looking at the ONS census and the population projections of where we're going to need to build new houses, where we're going to need new roads? That's the first one. How does this strategy align with everybody's local plans, house building, etc.? And on one of the first slides, it said that the peer review said we are currently delivering a minimum statutory service. So what are we going to do to improve that? And I'm guessing the whole strategy is going to improve that. Turning over the page. Communication, not only to us as members, but members of the public. And we've got to get it right first time. The use of common sense, as I said right at the start, and speed, as far as our residents are concerned, is of the essence. I don't mean speeding on roads, I mean speeding, getting everything fixed. And more needs to be done on that. Key barriers, other than finance, maybe a lack of staff. I believe after COVID, there's a certain lack of motivation. People trying to come back to work, people thinking, you know, what their futures might be. And if we currently keep Amy, then I think Amy needs to have something reinvigorated into them to make them comply and do a lot better than they are. Priority and investment in the customer need is key. They are the ones that pay the taxes for highways at the end of the day. Most of you will pay a tax on your vehicle to make sure it's roadworthy. You have to have an MOT to make sure it's roadworthy. We need to make sure the roads are roadworthy. We need a better focus on value for money, customer service, customer care and attention to detail. We need closer control of what is happening and where and when we need the additional investment. And I think going back to what James presented to us, that will cover that. And do we get what we pay for, as David Smith mentioned? We have to look at how much it's costing us to fill a pothole. I believe it's around 50 quid, £50. So are we getting best value for money? And if they're doing a temporary fix, how many times are they coming back to do a proper fix? And we need to, do we need to actually invest more to get more out? I'm not convinced that we do. But that's just my opinion. Then we looked at the 5-year ambitions, cost of materials. David, you mentioned it, they're doubling in price. We need to improve the customer satisfaction. We're currently in the top quartile for road safety. Not convinced. And common sense must prevail. What else? I'm going to be quick now. Again, as Councillor Hudson said, we need to have better monitoring and inspection of work. If it's not right, then why is it not right? And I think Darryl mentioned that we've 2P'd our inspectors across back to SCC now. I think that will have a massive impact because they now work for us. We've got better accountability. You've inspected this and said it's a category 1 or it's a category 3. Let's get it sorted. I've talked about my staff, SAP. More local control. This was one of the biggest questions. As members, our SCIMs or whatever they're going to be called will have a better control of which jobs get done first. Now, I'd hate for Tamworth to be right down the bottom of the county, to be forgotten because something up in Stafford, Moorland or Newcastle comes first. So it's about how do we prioritise which jobs come first. And I agree with the traffic management, better communication with utilities about if we're digging up a road, let's get it all done. Let's not dig it up, resurface it, and then somebody else comes along and dig it up. And I think I'm done. So do you want to come back with a summary, either of you, David, James, Darryl?
Yeah, I'll come back with a few things and then I'll hand over it. That's all right. It was, yeah, nothing new there though, Chair. So just on the rat runs, the actual way that they deal with the rat runs is the local member deals with it. So when you have those sort of issues, you get your traffic management, you get your traffic count, you look at the safety thing, you can apply through the Safer Roads Partnership, and then that's when you'll go and deal with your community highways managers to be able to get things changed. So unfortunately, it's down to the local members to do that. That's what we're here for. You are right, which is trying to get people onto major roads, and people will always find rat runs to try and usurp that. But if there are safety issues, or if there are measures that can be put in place, then that's where the local member needs to work with the community highways team to get that sorted. And the competition part, there already is a competition, but a lot of it is going to come down to the fact that it's availability of materials, cost of materials, cost of workforce, and availability of workforce. So just to remind everybody, HS2's taken a lot of local companies, and that they aren't available anymore. So it's something that we need to be aware of, that when we look talking about the cost of fixing the potholes, and strangely enough, we can fix a pothole probably around up to 50 times temporarily for the same cost as to do it permanently once. So when you look at it over a period of time, if you had to go out 4 times a year to do it, you've got a lot of years you can do that temporary pothole. So from a cost basis, it isn't the most efficient, but obviously from a perception, from a public point of view, it is completely different. The part about admin that David brought up, and the costs of admin, that's why at the moment the admin isn't so bad, because we've got the local community highways teams now working directly with the schedulers. So that change has ensured that really we are doing it within the most efficient way possible that we can. And when it comes to value for money, I think we are ensuring that we don't allow Amy just to run away and say we've done this many and that's it, and give them the money for it. They're on a contract, they've been given a task. They are now being monitored by our in-house inspectors, so they no longer mark their own homework, which is something that was always a bone of contention. And we will always ensure that whatever we do, we're going to look at value for money and bring the cost down to as much as possible. Do we get what we pay for? Yes, we do. And if we want more, we're going to need more. And unfortunately, like I said earlier before this meeting, materials are going up. Availability of materials is also now becoming quite scarce. And one of the things that has been evident from a meeting that James attended last week, because of Amy's buying power and their reputation, we've actually got access to materials that other areas are now struggling for. So it's as I say, it's one of those things where we are looking at the best way we can do things, but do we get what we pay for? The quality has been questionable of late, hence we've got our inspectors in. And the stability of our community highways teams, that is as stable as it can be for what we need. We need to ensure that all members of our teams are up for going through this change, up for going through the up for going through the transformation, and we're going to support them. This is why this extra money that we're after, the extra $1 million of revenue, is there to be able to do that, to look at the teams to ensure that they've got what they need. I can't change their title from SCIM to Community Highways Manager if I don't allow them and give them the tools to manage, and that is something that is really important. So when it comes to traffic movements across the county, that is always measured, that is always constantly measured. We do look at that. And when it comes to parish councils, I know David and I slightly differ on our opinions on this, but parish councils are there to actually serve their local members, their local residents. They're not there to actually support us. You know, in my opinion, they're there to do their job. We're here to do ours. We're a different level, and I personally think we need to work together with them. And that does mean that I go to my parish councils and I go to them and ask them for finance, match funding and so forth. And when we're looking at strategies, we need to agree that. We need to agree that with our parish councils. It can't just be, in my opinion, people dictating that. I think it needs to be that's what the public wants, therefore that's what the parish council should want. And in my experience, that has been the case, but obviously, you know, working with parishes, I think we can get a lot more out of them. From the network management part, obviously we also, part of that is going to be coming under National Highways, and they don't always work with us. when they want to do roads and so forth. But I have to say, it is one of those chicken and egg things. Every time we start to mend a road, I get moaned at that we haven't mended it, and then when I do start to mend it, I get moaned at that I've got to go somewhere else because I can't go through there because you're mending it. So it is a bit of a chicken and egg, but I understand that we are trying to do what we can. The multi-skilled teams, actually, what we are trying to do with the way that we are changing the work and the right first time, it completely addresses it. But there are, you will have to be aware that there are schemes where when it is just surface dressing, the teams have to go out before that, fill the potholes or fill the holes in to prepare the surface, and that then has to die down so that they don't get, is it bleed through, I think that was the cause, and the bleed through doesn't come through, and that can actually degrade the surface on its own. So that's why you will find that roads that are planned for resurfacing for surface dressing, they will be treated about 12 months before for the tops. We know that the other little holes will come, but we'll do that with the surface dressing, and then the surface dressing should do it and take for better. Thank you for your, Tina, for the hard work. It is a lot of hard work. I have to say, these gentlemen and their teams have done fantastic amounts, and I cannot say as more for that. You are right in the respects of negative perception. And I had this discussion with my wife yesterday, strangely enough. And one of the things was, how many times do you ever talk about roads? Because I go home and I talk about roads and potholes. She tells me I'm boring, right? And I can't blame her. I'm really interested in it. She's not. But like when you ask them and when you speak to it, when do people say anything about a road? They never say anything when they're driving to you unless they've hit a pothole or unless there's something going on. And it's always the negative. It is that. Actually, when you look at it, and I have it in my area in Penkridge, I've got an area where I'm doing an entire area of pathways and curbs, and then got moaned that I'm not doing another one. We're putting £350,000 into that one, and I haven't got any money to put into that one. And it is that. We have to be really... I think we've got to be a little bit more realistic with our communities. The price of tar has gone up because of the price of fuel. We are getting an £8.7 million cut, so even though we're putting 15.5 of our money into it and borrowing that, that's still 8.7 taken off that straight away. And for what we're trying to achieve, we have got a deteriorating road system. The moment you put it down, same as when you paint the house, the moment you put the paint on the wall, it starts to deteriorate. Well, it's exactly the same with roads, but it's a bit quicker. We have got a lot more traffic out there. We've got heavier traffic out there. It's something we have to be. I think we just need to realise the expectations of our communities. We have a finite amount of material. We have a finite amount of workforce, and we can only do so much. And a lot of it, unfortunately, I have to disagree with the chair. It's going to come down to money. The more money that we can get, the more we can invest. But it is a difficult, and then we have to plan that in advance. So we are working differently, and I thank you for bringing that up, because what me and the team have really done, and I have to say that they have done it 10 times more than I have, is going around all the teams, the community teams, going around all the workmen who are out there, including sometimes with the people that we bring in from other companies, and talk to them about how we can do things better. And what we've tried to do within the entire part of this transformation is bring the teams with us. So it's not just a case of here it is, here's the changes and you're going to do it. What we're actually saying is, how do we do this better? And the frustrations that some of the workforce get is because they can't, when they were doing it, is there's a class cat 1 category, we can pothole, we can do that, but we're not allowed to do the other 10 pat 3s around it. That has been the case so far. That's where we're changing. We want them to be able to come to work, do the job, feel proud about what they do, because most of them live in Staffordshire who actually do it. And let's face it, when you're walking down to school, if you're the one who's doing the roads and somebody says, why haven't you done that? You'd rather be able to say, I've done that really nice, rather than it looks rubbish. The report system changes are taking place. It should be being rolled out. I don't know if it's got to Tamworth yet, has it? With the new My Staff's app. But you will find that you're now getting photos before, after, information of when they're coming, what they're doing. That's all going through, and that is now being rolled out right across the county. And I have to say, when we trialled it in South Staffs, it was a fantastic difference, and it does keep people informed. And I think that was one of the the biggest issues that came to me, I've been a backbencher for 8 years, and people were always saying, I never know what's going to happen. I never know when it's going to do. What's it look like when it's finished? We have that now. And with us having our inspectors in as well, what they will be doing is when people report potholes and they go out, they'll be looking at the area and actually saying we need that area doing. And then when the teams turn up, they won't just be turning up for the one pothole. They'll know about the rest of them around the small area. That doesn't mean we want to stop people reporting each pothole when they see it. And the categories, I have to say again, an expectation, which is why we are going to provide training for members especially, is the fact that what we consider to be a deep category 1 pothole may not be a deep category 1 pothole from what the national standards are. So that's why I want that's why I'm going to be putting training on for members to be able to understand that, because it is an expectation issue. Which model are we going to go to, and which one would I favour? At the moment, I could have told you I would favour one model more than the others. I am looking to see the best model that fits Staffordshire. And that may mean that we change completely or we don't, and we actually utilise what we've got. And part of that is going to be, and I would be remiss if I didn't check this out, is if as the changes are coming in, are there any improvements in the way we're working now? Because if that was the case, and how we're working with Amy, it would be remiss of me not to look at that as a way and as a positive to bring to the council to say, actually, this might be an effective way of doing it. So, at the moment, no, I haven't got a single specific way I would like to go. However, just to clarify on certain things, we are looking at right first time. We are looking at our comms. We are looking at ensuring our control is increased, and we are also still in the top quartile from the national figures for road safety. We do prioritise that, and I have to say I work with the Community Highways Safety Partnership, and the PFCC has just become the chairman of that now. So changes are afoot with that as well to accentuate that. Well, just on the final one that you made, Chair, was about prioritising. So the prioritising for each area for larger schemes obviously goes through engineers, and they will look at that and they will prioritise which one's under safety, mainly. And then it will come down to other factors, but it's always going to be on safety first, which is why we're so good at it. When it comes to local control for yourselves and your community highways teams, you'll be the one working with the community highways managers for your DHP money ones. But when it comes to schemes that are above that, you can have an input on that, but it will be the community highways managers who will be managing that and actually putting it onto the schedule. That's what I want them to do. They will know, they've got several members in each ward. They will look at it from a safety point of view and a logistics point of view, and they will actually schedule. So from yourself, Chair, from Tamworth, you may have 4 other people who've got similar schemes, and from whichever ones are the best or whichever goes first, it will be the highways manager who decides that. That probably depends on how much pressure you put on them, Chair, depends on what, or if you bring them dog chocolate hobnobs or things like that, that never knows. But I'm really excited with the changes we're trying to do, and I'm really excited with the changes we're implementing. And I think as one of the things that part of the training, as I said, will also be that I'm going to ask members who've had positive experience and negative experience to bring those so that other members can learn from it, because those are big things as councillors. As I say, I've got 3 hats because I'm on parish, district and council and county, and I see it from all sides, and I think as part of that we need to be able to understand that, and that's going to be as part of the training as well. But yeah, I'm really pleased that we've been able to bring this to you, Chair, and happy to take anything else. I don't know if anybody wants to come in with anything. Darryl?
Just quickly, firstly, thank you everyone for your feedback. It's really appreciated. It has been a lot of work today, and it will continue to be a lot of work, but the kind of feedback and input at this stage is important. We've come early on purpose to get your views. And as we said, we aim to come back in June with the preferred model, again, for your feedback on that, so that your feedback is part of the Cabinet report in July. So it wouldn't be right for me to say which is my preferred option at this stage as a result. I think it is safe to say, though, as James mentioned, we have tasked FHRG, the Consultants Future Highways Research Group, who have got that access to all the best practice to kind of, is there a hybrid option that could emerge from this? Because there's bits I like about each and there's bits I don't like about each. So is there a way of taking the best bits and having something new that suits Staffordshire? And if there is, probably going to gravitate towards that, aren't I? Because it gives you the best of everything. So hopefully, if there's something that does come out and makes sense, that's what we'll be bringing back here. So that's probably as far as I go on that. I just wanted to pick up a couple of points. If you recall from James's presentation, through this process, FHRG have been really clear and challenged us that all the models are deliverable in Staffordshire that we've picked. But you need two things in place if you really want to make a difference. Number one, you need that strengthened client side. You absolutely need that. And the good news is we're really close to putting that in place now with the changes we've made. There's still more that needs to be done. And we've asked them to go and look at best practice and come back and tell us what that looks like so we can see how far away we are from that and change. And then the second bit was having a more responsive community-based service, basically strengthening our community highways teams with more capacity, more resource, and more control over what happens on the ground to meet local needs. If you don't have both those things in place, we just won't meet our requirements. So all the feedback you've given us today has really emphasised how important that is, which is really helpful. We are looking holistically at the transformation. This just what we've spoken about today has predominantly been around the future model, but this is about transforming the whole of highways. So the issues you've talked about in terms of rat runs, the way we respond to local plans, the way we think about local plans, every aspect of it is part of this overall. So we're transforming the whole service just to give you that assurance. So future work programmes, we might want to pick on certain bits as this develops over time and get updates here, and we can certainly do that for you. The focus on customer that's come back from you is fantastic because that's what we're driving here. And just to emphasise again, and it relates to David's point around you get what you pay for, the FHRG assessment of the contract has told us the minimum statutory service point. We are one of the lowest spenders against our comparative peer groups, and we get good value for that money that we put in. But the reason we get good value is because the contractor is asked to focus on risk and get the cheapest, quickest, safest repair in as possible and do as many of those as possible in the year. What that leads to is the feedback you'll get as members, which is around why have they come and done this repair and not the one right next to it? Why have they used a temporary repair and not done a permanent repair? Because they're doing it quickly and safely and cheaply for us, because that's what we're asking them to do, maximise the amount of repairs you can do with the budget you've got. What we're proposing here is a shift away from that to being more customer focused, more flexible and focused right first time, but that will come at a cost. And that's why the highways investment strategy is the third element of our transformation. If we want to move towards this model, what does it look like in terms of cost and can we afford it as an organisation? Because I agree you do get what you pay for. So thank you so much for your feedback. I think everything you've said hopefully backs up the approach we're taking. We've given us some stuff to think about and add in though, and make sure we're really clear on, particularly around the kind of wider issues around highways, which we'll make sure is picked up. That common sense piece is so important to me on this, that the communications need to be common sense. They need to make sense to people when we communicate, and it needs to be timely, because there's nothing more frustrating than getting told something you thought was going to happen isn't going to happen 5 minutes beforehand, because that doesn't help anyone, does it, for example. So thank you very much for your time this morning.
David, is it quick?
Quick. I just want to pick up on something that David said. We're not in any way disagreeing with each other, I don't think. I am only running up a warning notice that bloody internet. I'm just running up a warning that when I first became a county councillor, I had all of the parish councillors from my 5 parishes that felt that the highways officers were a free opportunity for them to be able to go direct to them. Now, I've stopped that, but if we're going to look at parish council involvement, where we will have hundreds of parish councillors across the whole of the county that feel they can pick up the phone and get direct access to a highways officer, we will end up with the system collapsing. And I'm really just running up the warning flag. Also, parish councils do not have the expertise to be able to deal with highways. It's not their bag of tricks. And so I really am saying that they should work through the local member. And as long as I'm getting that assurance, I don't have a problem with that. I think that I had a problem at a parish council meeting because I attend all 5 of my parish councils. I had a problem where there was a complaint about the delay in dealing with several potholes. And then when we got down to actually how the delay had occurred, it had been given to somebody who was a parish councillor. He had not told the person concerned that it was me that they should talk to. He had taken the problem on himself, and the reason for the delay was actually the parish council. And so if you bypass people, you end up getting problems. And the last thing, perhaps, Chairman, I do apologise. If we're going to have another look at the reporting system, can we look at the possibility of being able to report a length of road? At the moment, you can only report specific potholes, but lots of people are saying, well, you know, it's this stretch of road. If we're able to slightly modify that, I think that we could probably make life a bit easier. Thank you, Chairman.
Yeah, I think we should be promoting people reporting it on My Staff's app direct to the county council, not through members. Because if everybody keeps ringing me up all the time to report a pothole, what they should really be doing is reporting it through My Staff's app. Then I can follow it up. But I don't think it's the members' responsibility to be reporting potholes.
I totally agree with it. I'm sorry if I've misled people. I insist that I need a number if there's a problem. It's exactly what you're saying. I'm sorry if I've misled the committee over that.
David,
yeah, thanks. Yeah, just to close it off, really. Yeah, you are right. It should be everybody should be able to report it. The reason why we've got our inspectors and they are looking at it now is if they report a pothole, and when that's inspected, the inspectors will look at that length of road, the short length. I really wouldn't want to start opening it out to him saying that, because that would just lead to a huge amount of people coming in with lots and lots of lengths of road. And when it comes to the parish councils, if they are to contact because they want something and they try to bypass the local member, that's where the community highways teams will be contacting you, and that's what should be happening, right? As always happens, really. If a parish council wants something, they should be going through you to do that, and the community highways teams already know that they should be doing that. So it isn't a case where a parish can come up and say, I want this putting in here. They'll still have to come through you. The difference where a parish council wants to pay for something all on their own and not go in with your money, again, that will still be through you. But some of the examples are that the parishes in Norton Keynes, I think it is, pay for an extra gully cleanse for their entire area. That was done through agreed with the local member. We then got that sorted through our contract. So nothing is there to bypass local members at all. It's just to ensure that we work in unison, and we are trying to work as a 3-tier system, and I think that's is trying to enable that to interact with them as well as best as possible. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thanks for the report. Thank you, members, for your input, and we'll look forward to welcome you back, whoever that may be, in June after local elections have finished. Thank you very much, gentlemen. No, it might be me that's not in the chair. It could be somebody else sat here. Who knows? No. Thank you very much, gentlemen. And we'll move the last item on a work programme. Jonathan, do you want to go through that with us?
Just before June, if we're having a meeting in June, I'm not available after the 17th.
Thanks, Chairman. Right, I think that's it for this municipal year, really. I've started to populate next municipal year's work programme, but I haven't circulated yet. because according to the Scrutiny Guide, that's something you should decide at the first meeting in the municipal year. However, first meeting date is Thursday the 26th of May. And you've already agreed that the rural economic strategy is going to be brought to that meeting. There's the usual work programme planning item. I don't know whether you've given any thought as to what sort of format you want that to take, whether you want directors to be in the room and to give a short presentation, or there's the possibility of you and the Vice Chairman speaking to the various directors at the triangulation meeting, and then...
I quite like the format that we had at the beginning of this year, where the directors come to us, they tell us what is going on their forward plan, and then we can plan what we need to have on our agenda. It's also nice to contact for everyone to be able to speak to them. So if we can organise that for May, that's fine.
Yeah, and also, if you recall, there's the flood risk management strategy item you asked for an update on at your meeting in November, that's sort of penciled in for the May meeting. Whether you want to agree that now or...
We probably need to put that onto June, don't we? Because if we've got rural economic strategy and all the directors talking to us, we won't have time to do the flood risk management,
Right. The only thing about that, Chairman, you don't have currently a meeting calendared in June.
Okay.
The next one after the 26th of May is the 7th of July.
But we can put one in June if we decide
You can,
that.
yeah.
Okay. We'll look at dates for that with if Councillor Hutton sends you his holiday dates, and we'll work around. Okay, that's fine.
There was something else. Oh, yes. Following the presentation we've received on the Highways Transformation Update this morning,
June, yeah.
that's coming to June as well. So
it looks like May and June might be already sorted then.
Yeah.
Which is good. Perfect. So the date, as you've all just been told, of the next meeting is Thursday the 26th of May at 10 o'clock here at County Buildings. Item 9, exclusion of the public. There isn't any, and we haven't got anything to discuss. So that brings us to the end of today's meeting. I thank you for your attendance, and I'll close the meeting at 12:02. Thank you very much, gentlemen.